We are back. It's the Joe Holka Show presented by Line Movement, talking divisional round stacks plus lineup builder with my good buddy Ryan Hodge. He's at Ryan Hodge on Twitter. Hodgie, how's it going, man? Welcome back. How was the wild card round?
Wild card round was great, man. Wonderful weekend of football. Always appreciate you having me on. Gets me in tune, gets me in sync rather than, just winging it in the morning, firing lineup. So this is great, man. How was your wild card weekend?
It was okay. I think I probably, if it wasn't for the Stephon Diggs showdown slate, would have been in the negative, but had mostly a break even or like small loss slate. Like I think I only had one slate. I played every slate, played every showdown slate, only had one that was a complete total loss. So when you're playing tournaments, it can definitely go worse than that at times. So I'm happy about that. Ready to move on to this slate. This is one that's nice just because DraftKings finally gave us that 4-game slate. Obviously, we have a game or 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday, but we got a little bit more time in between to think through late swap and all of that. So that was great. One thing that's interesting about this slate, Hodge, obviously we're recording this on Friday this week, so we have a little bit more context in terms of ownership and that sort of thing. But what stood out right away is this Cleveland and Kansas City game, just running away with it in terms of the total. So I would imagine that Sunday in general probably going to be a little bit more popular than these 2 games on Saturday. So just a quick run through. If you haven't watched any of the other videos, we have Rams Packers, the first game on Sunday or on Saturday. Second game on Saturday, we have the Ravens and Bills. First game on Sunday, we have the Browns and Chiefs. And then the 4th game on Sunday, Tampa Bay versus New Orleans. We got the Brady versus Breeze hammer on this one. So interesting week. I guess, what was your initial thoughts when you saw the orders of the games? It was probably a lock that we were getting Brady and Breeze in the 4th game. But outside of that, are you with me that these first couple games look like they might shape up for a little bit less scoring overall?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think you have the Rams in Green Bay, which tend to run at a pretty slow pace, and then I I don't know. Baltimore and Buffalo could absolutely be a higher scoring game. It's the Rams and Green Bay game out of those two that could just run at a egregiously slow pace.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was thinking too. And then this first game, like, we don't know. I mean, we don't. I guess the Rams quarterback situation is just kind of a mess, but that defense has just been so good. But then we see Aaron Rodgers. It doesn't really matter. Like this year, at least, he's been just torching good defenses all year. So we're going to see Jalen Ramsey versus Devonte Adams. There's a lot of dynamics in that first game. But this is a stacks video, Hodge. I know it's later in the week, but people are still looking for those early week answers to the test. Our lineups, I mean, not to toot our own horns a little bit, they've been doing pretty well, and we've been building them on like Wednesdays and Thursdays. So last week, I can't remember, was it we did have a Roethlisberger stack last week on one of those, which was great. I believe what else do we have? On Saturday, would we have a Tampa Bay stack? The games all, like the slates, they all blend into one at this point. But yeah, I think it was a good week.
We had a Tampa Bay onslaught and a Steelers onslaught.
With no Rojo. That's what now I remember. Yeah, so just by default, no Rojo, so we dodged that. So that was great. So we're running hot. So do the opposite this week for sure, because we probably didn't deserve it last week. So just looking at this slate, the first stack that I think we should talk about is actually one that you put us on, and I think you should start us off because this is one of the ones that I was super interested in as well. And we talk about it, just obviously, if you haven't checked out the playoff DFS video that we recorded last week, just a little bit more in the weeds on strategy. Having stacks in game number 4, the last game of the slate, is pretty valuable just because you have so much more information as the slate goes on. So New Orleans and Tampa Bay, Hodge, tell us why you like this game this week.
Yeah, I think first off, when you take a look at the total here, you have a good total. It's moved by 2. It opened at 50 and it's up to 52 now. So initially, though, if you look at pacing and DVOA, these teams are pretty stout when it comes to the rush. First and foremost, Tampa Bay is tough to run on. The Saints have been tough to pass on. In fact, the Saints are second in total team DVOA to Football Outsiders, third in pass DVOA, and second in rush. And then you have Tampa Bay, who's fifth, and first, respectively, with rush being first in total DVOA. So I initially was like, this might be a little bit slow because I know that they tend to run slow. You have their situation neutral plays per game. They're actually pretty slow. The Saints are 28th, but Tampa Bay runs fast. And I think that's where this total comes from. And I tweeted this out earlier, but just to echo it here again, most of this stuff is baked into these totals, but I do think it's important to understand the context. And that's where the context of this team total comes from, with how quickly Tampa Bay has been running. Fourth in situation neutral. They are third when they're leading by 7. Interestingly enough, they take a quick drop when they're trailing by 7+. But I also like Tampa Bay betting. I don't know if you covered any betting stuff, but Tampa Bay is one of my favorite teams to tease up to 9, and I also love the money line on Tampa Bay too. So
yeah, I think Reeves was on the Tampa Bay side of that, so I think you're in good company there for sure.
Awesome. And to me, this game is super easy to stack. You have a super cheap Mike Thomas. You have 2 questionable wide receivers with Godwin and Mike Evans, who Godwin is actually the more concerning of the two with the hip injury, as where Evans, he's had the same knee injury. We saw him run tons of routes, get tons of deep targets. He was a guy who we were on last week, even with the injury, and I think we go right back to him this week. And Gronkowski, big old fat goose egg last week. I'm going to go right back to him at 3,600 and hope for those high equity targets. He got 2 end zone targets, I think, with inside the 10 or the 5 last week. And so we're just hoping one of those catches and that you can pick on the Saints over the middle just a little bit here with Gronkowski.
So I'm building here on Scream. It sounds like the Tampa Bay side is the one you want to be a little bit heavier on. So far, I got Brady and Gronk. It sounds like the Evans is your preferred guy over Godwin. Is that correct? We're building for a smaller field again. I think that's probably. I mean, I play a lot more smaller fields. Probably most of my audience has kind of transitioned to that anyway. So I think overstacking is totally fine. So in terms of the bringbacks, and I'm with you, like looking at this game, like initially I was like, some of these spots, like it's just such a tough spot on the ground for Kamara. It's just such a tough spot in this game because 2 good defenses, but you look at it a little bit deeper, and I'm with you, and I think it's priced in, man. Like Alvin Kamara at 7,900, a guy that has been getting like career highs in terms of volume on the ground. We know he's going to be active in the passing game. Michael Thomas, 6,700. Like it's just the prices on these guys has led me to them more than anything else. So do you think we bring it back with one of these guys, both of these guys? What were your thoughts on at least a bring back on this one?
So I'll say small field, both is fine. Larger field, I would just pick one. And in larger field, you probably are hoping for Thomas to fail and Kamara to get there. So in larger field, I'd go Kamara. And smaller field, I would go with both.
Yeah, I want to take a quick peek at their correlation, at least this year. It's in a smaller sample, not a lot of Michael Thomas, but we've seen these guys get there together at times. At least this year in the 8 games that they've been together has been a pretty significant negative correlation, but super small sample, so we probably don't have to look too far into that. If we did go both...
And small slate.
And small slate. Yeah, that's true. So some of the correlation stuff kind of goes out the window for sure. That's a great point. If we do go both, it limits us a decent amount in terms of what we can do the rest of the way. Let's do this. Let's just put in Kamara for now, and if we can get in Michael Thomas later, let's do that. Is there a defense that stands out to you? Because normally we try and pay down a little bit here. I hate the idea of burning the Rams in the first game at 2,600. I get nervous against Rodgers because he just throws it away if he's about to take a sack, that sort of thing. Is there a defense that stands out to you? Like the cheaper ones, at least on this slate, a little bit tougher to justify, I think.
Yeah, I actually think the Rams are going to be super chalky. They're a very good defense. They're super cheap. So one of the things that you want to do in these shorter slates is, even if it's a tough defense, or even if it's a high implied team total or a tough matchup for a defense, I'm still okay with that defense. I'm still okay with high implied defenses and high implied team totals. So you could go Cleveland here as the full on punt at $2,300, or you probably just go with the Bills. But I don't think there's any other options with this type of a team, especially if we're going to try and get Kamara, or excuse me, get Michael Thomas in there eventually. And look, I don't hate both of the running backs from the Cleveland game in a build like this either. So I think we'll touch on that, but I'll let you pick from one of those two.
Yeah, I like the idea of the Cleveland defense, just because with this build that we have right now, we're probably going to be relatively light on that game anyway. So, and for this team to completely get to the top, we got to hope that game that's going to be really popular fails a little bit. So let's lock in the Browns for now. We do have some salary issues, I'll say this. So as we're looking through kind of the rest of the slate in terms of like some of the guys that are the best values, like Cam Akers, he's a guy we've been talking about all week. He's 5,700. Just seeing a ton of volume on the ground. I think kind of a pivot in that game. I think Aaron Jones is somewhat interesting, even though he's 6,800. It's a decent spot. I guess, do you have any interest in like a Devin Singletary at 4,500 versus Clyde Edwards-Helaire 5,500? There's a lot of pieces here on the running back side of things. So curious your thoughts on any of those guys kind of in that mid to cheaper side.
Yeah, so I made an adjustment to Devin Singletary's ownership. When did the Moss news break again?
It was early in the week because it was before we recorded the first video.
It was early, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think I need to adjust his ownership again. I only have him at about 33% for this slate, but I think with no Moss at $4,500, he's going to push much closer to that Cam Akers 50% mark. It's just both of them are too cheap. So I think I kind of want to take one of these Cleveland running backs.
Okay. What do you think about Chubb versus Hunt? I have some Hunt feelings, but I want to get your unbiased take first.
Yeah, so Kansas City ranks 31st in total rush DVOA. They are not good at stopping the run. This all just depends. Look, the Cleveland team that we saw last week against an overrated Steelers defense, dude, I felt like the biggest donkey. Just all the teases, all the fourth game parlay, the last legs with Pittsburgh, just like everyone out there. Everyone, dude. That should not happen again here. The Cleveland will not run that hot against a fraudulent Steelers team, and this is not a fraudulent Kansas City team. So I think that it's thin, but I think Hunt's fine, dude. I think Hunt's going to get some targets. I think he still gets work in the red zone. We said that last week, and it should still happen again. It's just more or less as if Baker can get them down there. He rates really high in my model, but my model also takes into consideration salary versus ceiling projection. So I just have to temper expectations there. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with one of these guys. I think we need to go cheaper, so I want to go Hunt. It's really that simple.
My only problem with Hunt is that I think that some people might be, not necessarily you, Hodge, just in general, people are probably just thinking that, like, yeah, it looked good last week, scores on his first 2 touches, great, but he only touched the ball 9 times, man. And in the last 2 games, he hasn't broke 11 touches. So that's scary when we have these other guys that are super cheap and are going to be at least guaranteed for a lot more volume. It's not that Kareem Hunt can't get there. We would think that, like, obviously if the game script is going to be completely different, maybe he does see a little bit more work. I don't think he's going to be I think both these guys could go low in terms of Chubb and Hunt. So I'm fine getting my first Hunt share of the week. We'll say that. So I like the idea of getting a mini stack in that.
We can just go with Cam Akers. Like, this lineup is going to be unique enough. Mm-hmm. So
I think we get one of those guys. I don't necessarily want to play Singletary and Akers in the same team. So do you have a preference versus both of those guys for that flex spot? We should have a lot more flexibility then, for sure.
Akers, it's probably not even that close, but price makes it. Price makes me hesitant.
I agree. So we have a decent amount of salary here. So I think we can fit in Michael Thomas because, again, this is a team we're building for like a smaller field anyways. 6,300 left in that last wide receiver slot. We could go Godwin, completely onslaught that game. We could grab a piece in one of the earlier spots. We could go Woods, Landry. So interesting. I actually don't hate the idea of just adding to our kind of onslaught of this last game, because the way this is set up right now is that Kansas City is basically, we're hoping they're ahead, which they will be, but maybe they don't hit their price tag ceiling in that game, and Hunt and Brown's defense ends up being our pieces of that game. And then we have just our Cam Akers kind of like a lock at 5,700. I think we go Godwin with this one, man, at 6,100. We just have our triple stack with Brady. We have 2 pieces coming back. I think that's a reasonable small field lineup. $200 left. Any concerns with those last 2 pieces?
No, I'm always good onslaughting. You know that.
Cool. All right, so that's going to be our first one here, and just going back, we will do one more stack, and we were really light Kansas City and Cleveland on the first one, Hodge. So I think that we go right back to that with our second stack here. So I'm going to go back to the pricing, I guess my big question here is Mahomes is really hard to build with. He's 8K. But I still think that there's ways to get there with some of the value we have, especially some of the value we have at running back. So do you have any preference versus like these Cleveland guys who are way too cheap across the board versus getting in a Mahomes team that's like harder to do in roster construction? I'm still kind of going back and forth on what would be better.
Yeah. Baker is the highest rated quarterback in my model. But
he's 5,300. We can build whatever we want with Baker, and that's always a positive.
I know. And that's the part to me, though, where I actually think I need to adjust his projected ownership. Mm-hmm. I think I need to raise it. I have him at just about 10% for this slate, and I think I need to raise it based off of my initial feeling, where I think the field is going to be, the industry sentiment around Baker Mayfield, and some of the biasy from last week. So yeah. I almost want to put ourselves in a tough spot and force us to build around Patrick Mahomes.
Mahomes is like, what's scaring me about not like building around Mahomes is that he's like still at 8K, one of my top values on the entire slate at quarterback, which is terrifying. Just even like his median alone is like lapping almost everyone outside of like Josh Allen, basically. I think he's going to be popular, but let's go. This is a stacks video, Hodge. Let's get a Mahomes stack here. That's a little bit more fun.
I was going to say, we have to, right?
Yeah.
Let's force ourselves to make some tough decisions.
Okay. So we got Mahomes in there. The decision here is essentially, do we play Tyreek and Kelsey or do we pick one? Right. I think we try and get in the double, man. I think we have to do it at this point. So if we go Mahomes, Tyreek, and Kelsey, we have some cheap bringbacks on Cleveland, which is nice, but we can kind of piece our way through that. Let's figure out, since we didn't go Akers, let's just put in Singletary. We need the savings bad. So let's go with that for at least one of those running back slots. And then at defense, I'm with you that like punting all the way down to the Browns on that other team makes sense for sure. On this one, I think getting up to like if we're just looking purely at some of like the top ones, like Ravens Bills is interesting to me in game number 2. I also think that the Rams at 2,600 might go a little lower than you might think. At 2,600, let's throw the Rams in there for now. We'll just go 2 lineups, the 2 cheapest defenses. People are going to get mad at us, but that's fine. Okay, so bringbacks on the Cleveland side. If we're looking past some of the... What's up?
People getting mad at us for playing the most random position and paying down for it, those people need to adjust.
Well, people are going to get mad either way. So I'm with you. I'm totally fine punting with defense. We're playing a defense against Patrick Mahomes and playing a defense against Aaron Rodgers. It's a 4-game slate, guys. It's the way that these kind of work anyway. So on the Cleveland side, we talked about the running backs. They're both underpriced. They could go pretty low. I don't mind the Jarvis Landry and Rashard Higgins either. Even like Donovan Peoples-Jones at 3K, I think is fine if we're just looking for kind of like some sort of punt in that game. I don't really want to go 100% Kareem Hunt, so I think he's probably out from this build. We could just go Chubb on the other side of it as well and just hope that Cleveland backs into a game script where there ends up being a decent... I think that's probably the least likely though, right? Would you rather go the pass catchers?
I would almost rather just play Higgins. Mm-hmm. And Landry at 56 I think is maybe fine, but I guess if we're looking to full onslaught, I think you can go Landry, but like I would rather almost open this up to like Cooper Kupp status with that swollen knee and whatever he's got going on to maybe a Josh Reynolds pivot here, mm-hmm. or the good old double tight end and flexing a Gronkowski or flexing a Dawson Knox or something like that.
You love Gronk this week. That's awesome.
Every week, dude.
Yeah. I think let's piece together at least a mini stack in here. So like Singletary, like we could go another weapon on Buffalo. We have no Diggs yet, which is fine. There could be a little bit of weather in this one also. One of the guys that I've kind of been hot and cold on is Hollywood Brown. He's so cheap, man. Like that's the thing that I kind of keep going back to on him. Like his volume has been really strong over the last few weeks. I think that a lot of people are still going to go Marquise Brown. So I guess I'm trying to figure out ways we can get different in these first couple of games, but I hate like overexposing myself to game number 1. I guess that's my only pushback on like the Cooper Kupp or Reynolds decision is that if you're wrong on that, it really buries your team for late swap the rest of the way. So if we went with a Ravens option, do you have any interest in Marquise Brown at 5,200? It does leave a decent amount of salary available for the rest of the way.
I love Hollywood Brown. I loved him coming into the season. Was wrong for the first 8 weeks,
Yeah, same.
and it sucked. And I played him in cash last week, which was one of the reasons why I had a nice cash week,
Mhm.
along with him and Juju Smith-Schuster. And I will continue to play Hollywood Brown in games where I think the pace is up. And this has a good total. His target share has been there. He's cheaper than Jarvis Landry.
Mhm.
So I just, to me, playing Hollywood with some, Singletary correlation makes perfect sense in a lineup where we have to start getting down on some of these salaries.
Mhm.
We could even get rid of Singletary and figure out another running back and go with John Brown,
Mhm.
who was just absolute dust last week,
Yep.
or we continue to onslaught with like a McCall Hardman or something like that, or Demarcus Robinson with Kansas City.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, is what you think about McCole Hardman at 3,900. Like, I think I probably have come full circle on him, like played him too much. And then at this point, it's just like he ended up being somewhat popular, but he's so cheap, man. 3,900 might be really helpful for us. I was looking at this, and we can't get in Kamara at this point, no matter what. But if we put in Hardman in our flex, I think 5,900 left at running back. Yeah, we can still play Cam Akers. I don't mind that at all.
I think that's perfect with the Rams defense correlation too.
I like it. All right, we're already over a little bit longer than I wanted to go. Make sure you guys follow Ryan Hodge on Twitter. He's at Ryan Hodge. We've been running really hot with these stacks plus lineup builds, my man. So hopefully we can keep that thing rolling. Any final thoughts as we close this thing out?
No, man, everyone run good this weekend, and there's always another slate next week. So let's go.
Good stuff. Let us know in the comments your favorite stack of the divisional round. Consider subscribing to the channel. Also, before we get out of here, would love it if you would toss a like on this video. It really helps more people see it. And we will see you guys next time. Good luck.